it, where it's the same thing, goes
Yeah.
down like that, put the cage right next to the water.
Yeah.
But
One of those, man, because I went to Pitt in 2000. I left Pittsburgh in 2002. They didn't even have the Rivers Casino, man. I've been gone a while. But,
yeah,
but man,
was it in the cage or was it in the ring?
you were,
Was it boxing or was it MMA?
I think it was a ring, actually, now that you think about it. The ring was set up. The ring was set up here, and the camera was coming down over, like, the backwards angle. So the way I was watching was, like, from that angle, and the ring is in front of me, and it was in front of me. It looked
I
dope,
think
but
that
it
was
was
probably Lawrence County Fair.
that's awesome, man. Dude, it's like, every people who aren't in the know, Northeast Ohio, Western Pennsylvania, Steel Town, both gritty, but known for boxers. At least when I was growing up, Mancini, Shavers, Pavlik. There's tons of great talent. And in the early '90s when MMA came about, I was that 11-year-old kid watching the first UFC, watching every event up until I would just shut the phone off. Was watching Dana White's Contender Series. Man, I'm a bit of an MMA combat junkie. But now seeing, and correct me if I'm wrong, what are you, 24, 23?
24.
24. You don't, being a young fighter coming up hungry, to not have like the MMA history because it's such a new sport, like to not have like the local heroes to look up to, I wanted to start there because you're kind of a pioneer, at least for me living in Sydney, looking from afar. Are there any other professionally undefeated signed potential champ MMA fighters coming out that region, like Northeast Ohio, Western Pennsylvania?
Yeah, not undefeated, but there's a couple other fighters. One of them was signed before me, Dalton Rosta. He's one of my teammates. He was signed to Bellator before I was. He was signed, I believe, at 13-1, and he fought AJ McKee.
Yep.
And he was a huge prospect at the time. He wasn't even in title contention yet, and Dom took the fight a weight class up from what he usually does. He ended up getting knocked out, but that's how he got his shot. And he's been doing well so far. He potentially has a fight coming up in September. It might potentially be pushed back to October. And then there's another fighter, Kama Worthy.
Yeah, I'm aware of Kama. From Pittsburgh, though, right?
Yes, and he got signed to the UFC 2 fights ago. He's 2 fights into his UFC career.
Yeah.
So besides those two, there's some up-and-comers. John De Jesus from Pittsburgh as well. He just got signed to Bellator. He just had a Bellator fight last week or the week before. And then, as for big promotions, that's it. But, there's a couple other fighters to look out for. Josh Fremd being one of them. He just fought for LFA, which is more of a regional fight promotion, and it's on the West Coast.
Yeah.
They actually held it in Falls.
Yeah. LFA, some good talent comes out of there.
Yeah, he just got signed to them for, I don't know how many fights he has with them, but he just had his debut with them, and he won by a vicious knockout by a couple knees. The first knee, he had a guy in the half Nelson from behind, kneed him when they're standing pretty much straight up against the cage, and he was actually holding the guy up while he was limp with the half Nelson after the first knee, and then kneed him again, and then the guy started falling, caught him with an elbow on the way down, then whenever they hit the mat, caught him with another right. And it was pretty vicious.
Dude, man, another thing I wanted to, have you share with us is the region itself. Man, I can't reiterate this enough to people maybe living in elsewhere. The show's being, streamed in multiple countries, but where we come from, football, like you got the Football Hall of Fame, Canton, Ohio. Multiple professional football players, and I know you played football at Laurel. Didn't you redshirt at Youngstown State? My question derives from the decision that you had to make at such a young age, a very, bold decision to either continue playing football or to go the mixed martial arts route. Talk about how hard that decision was, and was anyone guiding you during this decision-making process? Because you're still a young dude, and you were a teenager when you made that choice.
Yeah, growing up, I had like two, if you would if you would say, like loves for when it came to sports, and one was football and the other one was essentially wrestling at the time, but it was just combat sports, period. I dabbled in jiu-jitsu, I dabbled in boxing, and whenever I got into wrestling, it just kind of stuck. And I gravitated toward it immediately. And I essentially dedicated myself to football and wrestling alone, but in the back of my mind with wrestling, knowing that my career, if I chose the wrestling route, would kind of reroute into MMA. So my goal as an athlete growing up was either to be a professional MMA fighter or be a professional football player. And I started off wrestling at Seton Hill University, actually, and then I went to Youngstown State after an injury and a few other issues and stuff at Seton Hill, and went to Youngstown State, played football, got injured again. And then at that point, whenever I came back for spring ball, it's like, all right, I got to make a decision. I can pursue MMA now and get the jump on it early, because that's what my original plan was whenever I was going to college to wrestle, or I can continue to play football. And ultimately what I chose was MMA. Right after I finished playing football at Youngstown State, I got back into jiu-jitsu, I got back into boxing, and I was just doing those two just right away. I mean, I was doing my wrestling and stuff at jiu-jitsu practice, but it was just boxing and jiu-jitsu mainly. I didn't get into Muay Thai, kickboxing like a year later. But I took my amateur debut with just boxing, jiu-jitsu, and wrestling as my background.
Yeah, I got you. So I hate relying on outsourced websites regarding statistics, and regardless, statistics really don't mean a lot. But for experience as a fighter and an up-and-comer, octagon experience, how much time you have in the fight does matter. They talk about being a seasoned fighter, increasing your fight IQ happens the more looks you get at that high level. And so, pardon me if these numbers are wrong, but I'm looking at your 3 wins. Bellator 219, 3 minutes and 20 seconds. Bellator 231, 12 minutes and 3 seconds. And Bellator 243, your last one, 8 minutes and 49 seconds. Does that seem right with the time?
The first fight was I finished them, and it was TKO in 1 minute and 4 seconds, I believe. That was off. The other ones sound, I don't have the exact times left.
It sounds similar.
Actually, my last fight too, it was my third fight, just the last one. It was a doctor stoppage right at the bell. Okay. So that would have been 5 minutes too. So
in the first one?
The second, actually, now that I'm thinking of it, all of them kind of sound off. The second one was in the second round. 12 minutes would have been in the third round. Okay. But the first round stoppage, second round, first round.
Yeah, these are straight up from Bellator's website. So come on, Scott Coker, we need to fix those stats. But the point of my question was actually from that first fight, you came out looking, dude, your explosion. I mean, we could talk about the skills, the genetics, how you train all day long. I don't know if you know much about the show. I interview a lot of fighters, but, scientists. My background psychology. I love the mindset of humans who do awesome things. So the reason why I referenced this time thing is that from your first fight under the big lights, quick finish to the second, it took you a little longer. Preparing from the first to the second fight, and then when you were in that second fight, which was going a little bit longer, talk about some of the mental games that you were playing with yourself. Were there any self-doubts that you were going to get the win? Was there any self-doubts that you were going to get the finish? Were you hunting the finish too soon? Maybe share with us some of those insights.
Right at the end, you stole it right out of my mouth. I was hunting the finish too soon. That was the biggest thing for me in my second fight. I attribute it to going to the second round based on the fact that I was trying to get the finish too early. I put a lot of pressure on myself by telling a lot of these sources that I was going to finish it in the first round, and I truly believe I had the ability to do that. But this guy had a strong chin, and he had a very awkward style, which threw a lot of things off. Like, he didn't throw the punches and kicks and everything like you normally see at a high level. So you're used to training at all these things at a high level, and used to going with high level partners, and you used to them reacting a certain way. And when you get that in sparring over and over and over again, then fight time comes around. And it's like you throw a jab and dude doesn't move his head and he just takes it. But every single time that he takes it, he just sticks one straight back out. You gotta switch it up. You're like looking at this kid like, are you stupid?
Yeah.
And so I have to actually like now take my head off center line when I'm throwing my jab, which is I don't like doing. Like you said, I'm an explosive fighter. I like sticking behind my punches. You know, I like coming straight in with the jab and then throwing my right hand and bringing my head off center line after the right hand so I can follow up with a hook to the body, a hook to the head, whatever it ends up being. But this guy was really awkward. It threw my game off a little bit. And I went from a pressure fighter where if you watch my first fight and if you watch my very last fight, I walk these guys down. I get their back against the cages. Then I start unloading on them. I'll just put pressure on somebody even when I'm not throwing the punches. I'm a bigger 85-pounder, not so much a 205-pounder. But I make my –
Is 85 middleweight your natural – is that going to be your fighting weight, 185?
Yes. I was just walking around at 205. And partially the reason I got signed to 205 by Bellator is because I was fighting 205 as an amateur. But that was just because I didn't want to cut weight as an amateur. I wanted to enjoy it.
You're still ripped at 205. It's crazy, man. Your body type's ridiculous. You're still ripped at 205. At 185, people like to talk about, and no hating on Romero because I met the guy before, Yoel's body. But if you see Yoel, have you met Romero before in real life?
No, I have not.
He's not like, it's hard to explain. The muscles are huge, but he's not really like that kind of wide statured sort of guy. You know,
yeah.
He wouldn't fill out 205. Watching you fill out 205 and fill out 185, I was thinking, because I watched, like I told you, I know what LFA is. I even watch the Alaskan fights when they're on. I watch, Bellator when they stream in Australia. But I keep trying to brainstorm, like, fuck, man, is there a 185er that is as young as you, is explosive as you, and has that style? Because you don't wait. I like that you fight with urgency. I don't know, what's going on in your head, but it's almost like I interviewed a fighter one time. He was only 26. He's 30 now. He's a world champion now in a different sport. But he once told me as a 25-year-old, he was like, look, Johnny, I don't want to have a long career. He was like, I don't want to fight past, I think he said 32. So that's why my style is like this. Could you relate to that? Or is this just within your innate primal instinct to get in there and just get after it? You're in a rush, man. I like it. You're like always in a rush, which is tactical though, not like crazy, but it's fun to watch.
Yeah. So the way I approach a fight, I do this with my training. Like whenever I'm doing my conditioning, I gear my conditioning, my sparring, everything towards first round finishes. So I want to get in there and get out as quick as I possibly can. I want to get a devastating finish. I want to show dominance in every single fight. I don't want any of my fights to be close, period, even whenever I get to world champion status. And the only way you're going to keep improving upon that is if you go out there and set a goal for yourself each fight, and then you go and break that goal. And the way that I do that with increasing competition each fight is you got to tailor your training towards finishing these guys early. So I'm not going to, whenever I'm sparring, I'm not going to go in there and pace myself in the first round, especially whenever I'm getting the hard rounds in right before my fight. Whenever I'm starting to peak, I'm going to go in there balls to the wall from the very beginning, and I'm going to keep that pace up for as long as I can. Now, a lot of guys are like, you're going to die out in the third round. You're going to start fading. Yeah, the goal is to not get to the third round. If that happens, I'll cross that bridge whenever I get to it. But whenever I'm sparring, that's what I do. Whenever I'm doing my conditioning, I'll do a 1, 2 mile, 3 mile run. Like I'll switch them up depending on the runs are geared toward different things. But every single time I run, I start off in damn near a full sprint. And I try to keep that pace for as long as I possibly can. When I do my strength and conditioning workouts with Molinaro Health and Functional Training, where we're pushing cars and we're doing a circuit, we're going straight from car pushes to ladder drills and medicine ball toss, bag tosses like mat returns, everything. Where I'm doing this balls to the wall from the very beginning, not pacing myself whatsoever. Same thing with my hill sprints, trying to keep that pace for as long as I possibly can. And that if you want to get fast finishes and you want to be explosive, and that's the type of fighting style that you want to develop and you want your career to be based around, you got to tailor not just one part of your training towards that, but every single part of your training. And the physiology of my body, I'm a fast twitch muscle fiber athlete. I'm an explosive athlete. Now there's a trade-off. I can get in better shape. And then if I pace myself Yeah, I can last 3 rounds. I can last 5 rounds. I can go the distance if I needed to in a title fight. But the thing is I'm taking away some of my performance, and I'm hindering the gifts that I was given, my genetic gifts. So if I'm not using that explosion from the very beginning, I'm pacing myself, I might get a few short bursts in here and there, but there's a lot of opportunities that I might have missed because I'm worried about in the back of my head, pacing myself and not getting tired. So at the end of the fight, when 5th round comes around, I don't care how good a shape you're in, you're going to be tired whether you pace yourself or not. So I might as well have taken my opportunities, taken my chances, high risk, high reward at the very beginning of the fight. And then, like I said, cross that bridge whenever I get to it.
Dalton, how much of it is when you're in a fight and you get hurt and you've never been really hurt, but you've been hit before and you've been touched before. And so the longer your career is, something's going to happen. My question is, it's normal. It's a fucking fight game. My question is, how much of that, when that happens in the moment and how you react to it, you being the individual, the fighter, how much of that is the mental versus the physical versus the body actually feeling the pain when the adrenaline is going, and the mental of saying, this ain't shit, I have a goal, I'm going to get through this. And then maybe talk about that experience. And if maybe was there a moment in one of your fights where you did get hit and you thought to yourself, shit, man, this kid get fire. Let me, I gotta put a poker face on. What's that like, the war between the mental versus the physical within yourself during the fight?
No, that's never happened during a fight, but it's happened during sparring where I got hit hard. Not rock, not days. I'm not seeing stars, but there's been times where I got hit hard, and it makes you start thinking like, shit, this, like you said, this guy can hit. This guy has some power behind him. So then you have to start, like, you just can't go in there full force, aggressive like you always do. You got to start putting some angles. You got to start working on angles, your strategy, your setups. Instead of hitting with your first punch, or maybe even your second, you start working on, like, all right, how am I going to get my 3rd and 4th punch in there? You start, like you said, fighter IQ. So the biggest thing when you get hurt is, part of it's physical, part of it's mental. A big part of it's mental, but let's say you get caught right on the button and you're dazed and you're wobbly and your balance is off and your equilibrium's off and you just can't catch your balance. If you get hit, you can do as much as you possibly can, but your mind only gets you so far. If you get caught right on the button again, you're going down. So, that could happen to anybody, but my goal is to become as good as I can defensively and offensively to prevent that from ever happening. And there's been times, like I said, where I've been caught in sparring and I work through it. I use my fight IQ, I use my strategy, I use different tools that I have to either, 1, get me out of the situation, or 2, use it to counter them. You see Derek Lewis, when he got hurt, he starts grabbing his body. I forget who it was against. Baited the guy in. It might have been Alex.
Yeah, it was a 7-footer. Yeah, wasn't it Alex Volkov?
Yes.
Yeah.
Baited him in, caught him with a heavy shot right after. It's something as simple as that. Like when you're the other fighter and you think you have somebody hurt and they're physically showing it, your next thought is to, like, pounce on that.
Yeah.
And something as simple as, like, showing that you're hurt, knowing in the back of your head that you're about to throw something back. That's not personally something I would do, but those are the things you got to constantly think about. It's fighter IQ. You kind of
Machida
being in that.
Who's one of, I think Machida's in Bellator, but there's stories about those guys back in the day practicing that. And then even in the Conor versus Nate second fight, Nate was saying that those times when they rolled him as knockdowns, he was baiting Conor to kind of pull him into his guard. So it's kind of, and you hear stories of certain camps will practice that sort of cat and mouse trickery component of the game, which is high stakes at such a high level. But I like your approach a little bit better. To kind of you're being proactive about your career. You know what I mean? It's like let me keep the ball in my court.
Yeah. As for Nate, faking a knockdown, I mean, if he wants to do that, more power to him. But you're losing points on the scorecard there. For whatever reason that it does go to distance, like I said, if the guy has a strong chin like my last opponent,
Yeah.
I mean, I easily got the finish. But, I mean, if it goes to the distance to the judges, then, I mean, you kind of lost yourself the fight there. You know what I'm saying?
For sure. And I think that now more than ever in MMA, that kind of unmarked, like having no losses, it's not like boxing, man. It kind of sucks that boxing, you get one loss and they kind of write you off for whatever reason, corruption, call it what you will. MMA is not like that. So when you have a guy like Khabib, who's had this long career, some say he, though, did lose to, back in the day, was it he undefeated, but my point is, to be an undefeated fighter in MMA and the longer your career is, it holds something. And I want to talk about the branding and the marketing of you as a fighter within Bellator, because I know you're active online. You know, I like that you want to call your shots. You want the big fights. Do you feel supported? And is there a support system? Is there a plan kind of like written ahead that like, all right, I got this fight. Let me get a big fight. I could become, because the way you handle your thing, man, your energy about you, your focus, there's no reason that, you know, MMA champion isn't in the cards. That's why you're fighting. That's your intention. Do you feel supported with that? Is there a team around you that you guys are so fixated on this? And maybe share that with us.
Yeah, I mean, the whole entire goal, like you said, is to be world champion. And I mean, it's above that. It's not even to be world champion. I know I'm not going to sell myself short. I know my work ethic and my God-given abilities and how much I've progressed over my career so far, just in the short 4 years that I've been doing MMA, like itself. I could be one of the best to ever do it. And I mean, that's my goal. There's a lot of guys that's like, all right, I want to be UFC champion, but yeah, why stop there? You know? So these are things that I constantly talk about with my coaches and my teammates that are close to me, the guys that train with me, the guys that see me work and work and work. And like, whenever anybody else that, you know, would quit and I'm down on my knees, like can barely breathe, and my coaches are pushing me and pulling me back up to my feet or whatever it ends up being to get another wrestling round in, or when I'm getting shark tanked round after round after round, and I'm only fighting 3 rounds, but we're doing it for 7-8 rounds straight at the end of a hard practice. I mean, that's the stuff that gets you to that next level. And it's not just about intensity either. It's about knowing when you're tired to still focus on your techniques, not get sloppy, and improve on your techniques while you're tired and not just when you're fresh, because you're going to get to times in the fight when you're tired. And if you get sloppy, I mean, you're going to start making mistakes. You're going to give up maybe a submission, maybe you get caught with a punch and get knocked out. These are all things that we constantly talk about. And we are always looking to improve on everything, not just conditioning, not just technique when we're tired, not just technique when we're fresh. It's just like constantly, how can we come to the next level? Like after our fights, like I have 3 finishes in Bellator. My second one was in the second round. I wasn't pleased with that. And as soon as we got back to the locker room, I'm like, all right, what could I have done better? And I look back at the fight and it's like, I got tired. I did. Like there's no way around it. I could talk all I want, but I'm just going to be honest. I'm going to put it out there. I got tired. I'm not going to make any excuses. There's shit I could have did better. There's shit I did right before the fight that I probably shouldn't have, like energy drinks and shit like that. Mm-hmm. Just, you know, getting a little bit too carried away with things. But it's like I got tired. I got sloppy for one. My technique didn't look like it was there at some points. Part of that was from me throwing fancy shit when I didn't have to. I was throwing spinning elbows. I was throwing spinning wheel kicks, all this other stuff, which don't get me wrong. I like throwing. I throw it in sparring and stuff all the time. And that's more of my style. But the shots have to be there. I can't just throw them. That was one thing that we picked apart. Another thing is when I have them hurt, and I know I have them hurt, when I hit them with a couple heavy shots, I hit them with a nice right hand, I hit them with a hook, I hit them with a spinning elbow, whatever. And I see he's hurt and he's running back across the cage. Instead of just following up with a bunch of freaking heavy shots, I should have peppered him, you know? Mm-hmm. Boom, boom, boom. Maybe throw a couple fakes in there, get him guessing where I'm going to go, and then pick my heavy shot instead of just heavy shot, heavy shot, heavy shot. Now, not only is he's knowing where the shots are coming from and where I'm throwing at, but I'm also gassing myself out. And those are things we picked up from that fight. My very last fight, I mean, my first fight, the fight didn't really go that long, but there's still things I could pick off. But my last fight, I was rushing out whenever I hip tossed the kid. I didn't even want to wrestle. That kind of just happened, second nature. It was just kind of instinct. He shot in on my legs. He came up with a underhook, or he came up for the underhook, ended up getting the overhook, and I just launched him. It just happened. It's just natural instinct, just from training. Didn't mean to do it. Wanted to stay on my feet. That was the game plan. And whenever we were there on the bottom, I was like, you know what? Might as well land a couple shots while I'm here. So I was like, elbow, shot, and half guard. And then I was like, all right, that's enough. So I pushed up off his hips, trying to stand back up instead of putting my knee in the middle. Mental mistake, because I was rushing to get back up to my feet. I was like, oh, I'm on top. I'm just going to get up. Instead of like trying to pass his guard, I'm just trying to get up. So I'm just going to stand up. No, he wrapped his long-ass legs around my hips, around my back, and got me in closed guard. And then whenever I was trying to stand up and break that, I rushed it again because I just wanted to get back up to my feet. And he almost caught me in an armbar. And that was partially because I thought he was going for a leg lock, So I started hipping down and exposed my arm. And those are mental errors. And those are things that we picked up on that I could have did better. And, and then other times whenever he's diving in on my legs, instead of like trying to land those uppercuts, short uppercuts inside, I could have just completely pushed off and let it come back standing. Because whenever I'm landing those shots inside, I'm still giving him range to either one, pull guard, or hanging on my leg. And those are things that got me away from my game plan a little bit. And I'm still learning. I'm still early in my career. But those are things we take away and things that we know we can improve on and we start working on right away.
Yeah. Wow, man. That's quite impressive. I felt like I was watching your highlight as you were deconstructing what was happening bit by bit. That's a attribute to obviously like your high fight IQ, also your willingness to want to keep evolving. I remember probably eight years ago, I first saw the original YouTube documentary with Conor. It wasn't the one that Netflix put out. It was the one that when he was still fighting in Cage Wars in the UK. And it was just him, his home camera. He's like pimple face, 19 years old. And he's reading these quotes off of it might have been from The Secret, but he's reading it. And then they interview him. He's like, I'm Conor McGregor. I think he was 1-0 at the time. He was like, I'll be a world champion. We know how that story ends. And it's that power of self-belief. And you reposted the thing about Conor and his soon-to-be wife and how they stuck by each other's side through that journey. And I know I've listened to interviews you've done with talking about your reasons and intentions with wanting to fight his sparring partner, Dennis. But my question, we'll get to that. We don't have to talk about that, but I'd rather talk about what do you see in the path, not necessarily the fighter of McGregor, but the path that he took. What do you see in his journey that you relate to?
A lot. I mean, he came from nothing. He started off as a plumber, and like he was trying to train as much as he could while he's plumbing, but he was working these long days, and he kind of just took the leap of faith where he was like, all right, it's time to like up and quit the job and just focus on training. And through everything, like whenever he was just fighting on local circuits, he was an amateur, and then he turned pro on local circuits, just making peanuts, really fighting. He just stuck with it, believed in himself. He had a couple people that believed in him, not many. And that resonates with me as well, because there's a lot of people now, it's like, oh, I always believed in you. Oh, I always believed in you. But like whenever I was an amateur and like I'm 3-0, 4-0, and they're like, yeah, you're undefeated. And yeah, you beat this guy, but like, let's see you against some top level competition. You're not fighting anybody. And then I fight another guy that's 4-0, and it's like, yeah, you beat him, but he's from Pittsburgh. Like he's not, let's fight somebody from like California. I'm like, what's that have to do with it? Like dude's 4-0. He's a state champ wrestler. He's purple belt in jiu-jitsu. Like the dude has a good background. It's like, you could tell people till you're blue in the face, like these guys are good that you're fighting, and they just won't understand it because they see you as still, they see me as just Dalton, the Dalton they grew up around, the Dalton that they know. And for me to say that I could be the best ever, nobody believes it because they put these guys on a pedestal like the story with Conor McGregor when he was fanboying over Chuck Liddell. And then 10 years later, 12 years later, whatever, Chuck Liddell's in the crowd while he's standing on a scale, like flexing weighing in. and Chuck Liddell became a fan of him. And it's like a lot of people don't like believe that could happen. How many people do you think Conor McGregor had that like, oh, Conor McGregor, like he was my next door neighbor. I grew up with him. He's nothing. Like, he'll never make it. Like, he thinks he'll be world champion. And they put these people like Chuck Liddell, John Jones, Lyoto Machida, all these big names on a pedestal. And it's like all those guys started off at the same place as Conor McGregor. So they started off the same place as me. They weren't born a star. They weren't born just the greatest fighter ever. They worked for it, and they climbed the ladder just like everybody else. But then the people only see them at the top. They don't see what they went through on the way up. And that's just like I said, no matter what I did as an amateur, then I fought a guy that was 5-0. Then I fought my last amateur fight against a kid. His name's Cody Brundage. He just fought on Dana White's Contender Series tonight. Yeah. He ended up losing by TKO. I missed the fight because I was training. Yeah. But I caught the very end of it, the highlight. He lost he started getting elbowed against the cage. And that like, from what I seen, I mean, he was definitely the better fighter. He was winning the fight up until that point. Herb Dean had a questionable stalemate where he stood him up, where Cody Brundage was in dominant position. And long story short, the position he ended up in, the double leg against the cage, I mean, that just comes from inexperience. Like, he should know he shouldn't have, or he can't hang out there. Yep. And it was a mental error on his end. He should have kept working from there, transitioned to something else. He was definitely the better fighter, definitely should have won that fight. But mental error, small amateur mistake, he ended up catching elbows there. And he ended up losing the fight. It cost him the fight because of it. But I mean, somebody like that, Cody Brundage, like, very, very good fighter. And I finished him. I beat him by TKO. And it's just like, people back then, it's like, oh yeah, he was 4-1. You beat him when he was 4-1. He's just another random guy from wherever he was, from Michigan at the time. Nobody understood that. But now you see him fighting on the Contender Series at 5-0 with 5 finishes, 4 knockouts, and a submission. And it's like, everybody's like, oh, well, he was actually pretty good. And it's like, yeah, people don't understand that till they get to the top. You know what I mean? Because people aren't around. People don't see the work you put in. People don't see you training against other top-level guys or training with top-level guys. So they don't quite understand or fathom, like, how good somebody is or how good they can possibly be.
Also, man, the people that are around you who would have those limited self-belief systems they're projecting onto you, that's how they feel about themselves. So it's impossible for them to actually even fathom, how could a guy that I know want to be a world champion? Like, this is them. It's like, avoid those people. And like you said, the circle that you have is going to continue to get smaller and smaller. And I think that there's beauty in that, though. They talk about when we go after things that we're compelled in our instinct to go for, it's not about adding things in. It's normally about subtracting things out in order to get there. And a lot of times, unfortunately, it's about sometimes, losing friends or avoiding certain sort of scenarios that maybe used to be common to us. And now it's like, you're on a different path, man. That doesn't suit you anymore.
And trust me, like that, like, there was time I made comments like, I would beat Lyoto Machida in a fight right now. I would beat Chael Sonnen in a fight right now. And I 100% will. I will finish both of them. I will finish them. It won't go to the judges. It won't be a close fight. I watch that fight and I see mistakes they make that I could pick them apart with. And I know I can beat them. And like, I am very passionate about that. And I'll tell somebody that I think's my friend or somebody that I'm cool with, or, just casual friendship, nothing like, not one of my best friends or anything. And then I say something like that and they laugh. And it's like, they can't help themselves but to laugh. Like, they don't mean to, but it's like, they just don't believe in you. And then they claim they believe in you, but then you say something like that and they laugh. It's like, oh, well, you believe, what you're telling me is you believe that I'm good enough to be where I'm at right now. But as soon as I say I want to go farther, you laugh and you can't help it. Yeah,
there's an awesome book about the two perspectives on either happiness or sadness or successful and unsuccessful. And it's the same mindset. It's either you're going to have a law of abundance in how we look at our lives, or you're going to have a law of scarcity. But you could look at the same environment and for they talk about a crowded room. Say there's 1,000. It's a gym, right? There's 1,000 gym members, and the coach has to pay rent at this gym, and he's new, and he walks down to the 1,000 members. He's like, damn, man, there's 1,000 members and 30 other coaches. How the hell am I ever going to fucking get clients? It's too many coaches. This same guy walks down with a different mindset, sees the 1,000 members, 30 coaches. He goes, holy shit, there's 1,000 members here and only 30 coaches. This is going to be peanuts to build a business around this. So it's like the more successful, the more you keep winning, and the more, you know, you believe in yourself. Because I feel it's awesome. It's refreshing to be around a fighter and talk to a fighter who still has that. Because after 5 years of interviewing people, I've interviewed, like I had Stipe on before he was a champ, and I saw that. And then I've also on the other tail end talked to fighters when they were retired. But to see a guy, a young man who still has that, because there's a lot of people in your game and the fight game that are just fighting for paychecks, and you could tell. And it's like, shit, man, if you're not in this, like people, you could get hurt. You know, you could have long withstanding injuries and damage if you're not in it wholeheartedly. So it's like, why be, like, for instance, man, my childhood guy was Lawler. It sucked to see Robbie fight the other night against Magny. It was just like, man, turn the lights on. Granted, he's 38. He's been in the game since he was 19. But, man, I'm screaming from the TV, fucking stop letting Robbie fight, man. If people were around that kid who loved him, they'd be like, but what could you say to a fighter? You know, how could you tell a fighter to hang him up? But with you, it's good to see somebody that is there, like, before all the glory, and keep using that, keep sending those tweets out, because it's only a matter of time. People are only going to be able to avoid you for so long, the fighters, and then it's going to be cool to watch. But yeah, man. Did you get any news on your next one?
No, I've been keeping in close contact with my manager. We're hoping for a quick turnaround. We're hoping for October. That's what we're pushing for. We tried September. They're like, we have too many guys to catch up because of COVID. So we're pushing for October. No guarantee we'll get it, but that's what we're being hopeful.
You look fucking in shape. Are you just at this point now just staying in shape just in case you get a call?
Yeah, that's the same thing for my last fight. I took that last fight on like 13 days notice.
That's wild. And yeah. we have from it, like, all anyone has to do is go to your social medias. I'll put those links in the show notes. Dalton Rosta, Instagram, Twitter. You'll see all your interviews that you wanted to fight. You wanted to fight Danis, but for those reasons, they can read about. I want to know on the opposite side, who's the fight that you would want to take, like, kind of as a, where am I at in my career? Like, you know, all realness aside, the experience, you're just getting started. Is there like a fighter or a fight that you're looking at that you're like, all right, this is going to be a great testament to where I'm at and could be that catapult to that next level?
There's honestly,
outside of Bellator too. I mean, pretend everyone fought in the same organization. UFC, Bellator, one championship, has some crazy middleweights. You know, my Ongla is a fucking goddamn blender. But, like, all the guys, is there one that you kind of look up to and you respect their career and you respect their game and you're like, man, I'd fight that guy just to see where I'm at. Is there anyone that in your head?
You know who I'd love to fight? I would love to fight Paulo Costa, but then, I mean, he's 13-0. I mean, he has a lot of experience on me, and I mean, the dude's a fucking machine. He's a fucking beast, and I mean, that's really my dream fight.
That's awesome.
I mean, I got a couple fights, obviously, until that point, but a few. So, I mean, I'm 3-0 right now. Realistically, that's not a fight you make until I'm probably 8-0. Looking at the commission, looking at the marketing side of things, at least 8-0, and I would have to be probably in the UFC unless they start doing cross promotion fights. But as for like my next step, there's nobody I have in mind. I just really want to fight Dylan Danis because I just don't like him. I just don't like the guy, and I mean, the dude, he always calls out like people he can't fight, and it's like, you know, he's seen everything, all the sources that put out my interview, about Dylan Dennis. I had multiple reporters. I'm talking probably 10, maybe more, but I want to say a solid 10 for sure called me. I mean, there's the right after the fight, the post-fight interviews, and then the calls that I got the week after. And they all published it online about me fighting Dylan Dennis. You know, random people, just fans that were watching the fights, tagging me in his tweets, you know, mentioning me in his comments on Instagram, mentioning it on the comments on Bellator's page. Like, he's seen it. We have the same management company. My manager ran it across his manager. So, you know, his manager relayed the information. And he knows I want to fight. He knows the offer has been put out there. The challenge is put out there. But he's trying to play it off as if he doesn't care. It's not a big deal, or he didn't notice it or whatever. But he just put up a tweet today that got me blocked, or got me reported on Twitter that he's reading all messages today and all tweets, and one lucky winner will get a response. So I said, it's probably, I don't know what to like.
You basically just said you'll not only knock him out, but you also take his girl. I mean, it's common.
Yeah. And he reported me. So he's definitely, he just, it's like, come on, why throw me an alley-oop like that? You just admitted to everybody all over social media that you're reading everything today.
Yeah.
And then I post that, and now you can't deny the fact that you've seen it. You can't just play it off, you know, at this point. But he still will, because social media, he chooses what he shows. He chooses what he puts out there. But eventually, if he wants to fight for, you know, like integrity, or he actually wants to prove himself, he's going to have to fight somebody of some worth. And there's a lot of killers down at 170. There's a lot of killers at 185. And he's hovering at the catch weights right in between right now. And either way he goes, I mean, there's a lot of options that can beat him. And I am one of those options. And I would love to be the person that exposes him right away. But if not, that's cool. I'm not going to limit my career to wait around for him. You know, I got bigger fish to fry. So, I mean, there was just a challenge put out there that I would love to take that fight right now. I'm 3-0. He's 2-0. But I am not going to wait around for him. There's plenty of fighters that are better than him at my weight class that I'd love to fight. There's other prospects. So you got Jordan Newman. You got Johnny Eplin. You got Romero Cotton. You got all these like prospects in my weight class that are they're beasts. They're good. They're really good. And then you got the guys at the top of the weight class that I want to fight. You got Leo Machida. You got Gayor Mousasi. You got, and like I said, those guys, they have 30-plus fights of experience. So Bellator is obviously not going to make those fights right now. As much as I'd want to, and as much as I know I'm ready for it, they're not going to make it. It doesn't make sense for them. They're not going to do it. So, I mean, I'm interested in to see who they give me next. And I'm just looking forward to another fight, really.
It's exciting, man. Like I said earlier, Dalton, I'll put your links up in these show notes, and I'll get this episode out as soon as possible. Is there anything do you want to leave? Just let the people know where they could follow you at, and if they want to get a hold of you for, you know, to reach out for anything, maybe sponsors. Just how could people contact you and keep up to date with your career?
I mean, I mostly use Instagram. My Instagram is Dalton_Rosta. My Twitter is Dalton Rosta, but my Instagram is what I use most. I mean, direct message on there, but I got my email right in my bio for more professional matters, such as sponsorship and endorsements and everything as such. So it goes straight to my email. And I mean, that's probably the best way to contact me. And also my management company's Instagram names in my bio. So plenty of ways to reach out about that. And those are the main social media I use. So that's how you can follow me.
Cool, bro. I'll get, like I said, I'll send this to the editing guys. I just, off the record, are you living in Newcastle?
Yeah, still. I'm going down to American Top Team September 14th and trying that gym out. I tried a few gyms in Tampa. I tried it's Sanford MMA, but it was Hard Knocks first.
Yeah, Henry Hoops. Yes.
Yeah. I tried that out. Didn't really like that there much. Didn't really like the partners there. Like the MMA fighters there weren't really the greatest, like my size at least. And so I'm going to try American Top Team out, and then I'm going to try Factory X Muay Thai.
Awesome.
And in Denver. And I'm going to choose where I go from that point. Now, if I choose American Top Team, they have dorms down there, so I wouldn't have to move. It would just, I would go down for my fight camps, train back here whenever I don't have a fight coming up. But so for now, I'm in Newcastle.
Yeah, because I could put you in. One of my good buddies is he's a sports scientist, PhD in exercise physiology. He does all of the strength and conditioning and performance stuff for Sanford. His name's Dr. Corey Peacock. And then he's actually –
I follow him. He follows me on Instagram. I follow him too.
Dude, Corey, man, I'll CC you. And the dude is just a great dude. Played college ball at Kent State. He's an Ohio guy. And he's like a researcher for human performance. You know what I mean? He single-handedly has taken Ong Lasang and taken him from a guy who just got into wars to a world champion. A lot of it's that conditioning and the recovery, the science behind what we're doing in between not only the days of training, but in between the sets. It's pretty fascinating stuff. And then if you go down, are you familiar with Phil Daru?
Phil Daru. I've heard the name before, but I can't say that I've ever looked into him.
Okay, he's another one of these MMA, because like 10 years ago, this wasn't even a thing. There weren't any sports scientists helping the fighters. Everyone was just winging it. But down in South Florida, you got a couple good guys. I'm going to see my buddy. He's an attorney out of Columbus. We grew up together in Youngstown. Him and his wife have one of 10 CBD licenses. They have a company called MI Wellness. They sponsor my show. It's like a recovery. I think that'd be kind of a cool opportunity. If I'll link you up with them too. They do. They're sponsoring Zola Frosto. She fights out west with Dream Bolanos, Dream. Mm-hmm. But yeah, just trying to think of ways of how the people that I know in Ohio, they definitely would be on board with helping you out.
Sweet, yeah. I mean, as for CBD, I mean, for like the social media side of things, I'd be able to promote it. But I mean, as for like a sponsorship, getting on the shorts or whatever, or banner, like Bellator has their DMD sponsor, so you can't have any competing sponsors or anything.
I didn't even think about that. You guys Bellator still puts a spot. I was thinking about just for straight up getting some all natural supplements to help the body repair.
Yeah, I use CBD too. I wear a Whoop.
Yeah,
and this here. You have one too?
Yeah, man.
Dude, bro.
Dude, the Whoop's fucking off. It's crazy the data it gives you regarding I'm impressed with the sleep data.
So every time I've taken CBD, like my sleep's always better. My disturbances are down. I have more deep sleep. Like I swear, I mean, you obviously have to supplement with it for a few days before you start seeing the differences. But when you're using it consistently and you stop using it, I mean, there's a huge difference. And it's like, I mean, I take magnesium and ashwagandha and melatonin and stuff like that, and GABA and all that before sleep too. So I'm big on my supplements. I do pretty much everything I can to help my performance. And I mean, at first I was skeptical, but ever since I seen the data with this, and I mean, it doesn't know you're taking CBD. Mm-mm. It just knows the way your body performs during sleep and what your rest and heart rate and everything is. But when you're consistently taking CBD and that changes for the better, the CBD's helping.
Another fascinating one regarding combat is, do you know Chris Algieri? Former world champion boxer, fought Pacquiao. He knocked out Ruslan Provodnikov. He's also a nutritionist. He's on the board. I'm very tight with the boys down in Florida, the International Society of Sports Nutrition, the ISSN. Yeah. Corey Peacock's on that board. Chris Algieri, still pro boxer. He's on that board. But the research right now regarding microdosing creatine daily for brain cognition and recovery is something that's fascinating that I think you could probably look into. Like not the big dosages that are, holding water retention, but small. I think it's less than a gram a day for not strength benefits, but cognition and brain repair. So
yeah, I mean, I take creatine daily too. I take CLA, carnitine, creatine. I have casein protein. I take whey protein. I freaking amino acids, essential amino acids, oil, CoQ10, beetroot powder, freaking phosphatidylserine for your nervous system.
You're on it, dude. It's good to see, man. It's good to see you're like the next wave of fucking fighters, man. Bringing the science with you. Dude, keep me posted on the next fight. Like I said, I'll get this out. I'll send you the link. And fucking, I think if you want me to see, I think Corey could probably, even if he's to contact Peacock to just advice on the science-based stuff, he's always there to help someone. I mean, you should reach out to him.
Yeah, all right, cool.
Yeah, he's a very good dude too. He played ball, and yeah, he wants to help a lot of people. But either way, I'll get this out for your photo. Should I just pull something from the internet? Do you have any?
Yeah, unless you want me to send you something. I mean,
Yeah.
I got plenty of like pictures from Bellator.
Yeah, send me one of your favorites to that email, the Second Day Media email.
Do you want it to be like a in-fight picture or like a photo shoot picture, like from before weigh-ins, or it doesn't matter?
Something that we'll be able to, like, we'll use as the Instagram full picture screen. So probably a weigh-in would probably be dope. I mean, looking all yoked, but there's good shots of you with that extending that. You have really good extension on your punches. There's that one shot that I really like where it's like that in the fight, somebody captured a cool shot of you. I don't know, send me a couple through, man. I'll pick.
Okay, cool. And my last name's pronounced Rosta.
I'm terrible, man. Rosta.
Yeah. Yeah. I wanted to like correct you like during the thing, but like
Rosta.
You kept going, so I was like, I'm just gonna go with it.
Rastafarian.
Yeah, I do get that a lot, but I ain't a smoker.
Yeah, good. Stay away from that bullshit. You gotta.
Yeah, I've never drank either. That's another fun fact about me. I've never drank alcohol.
Dude, these are things that, man, I'm glad you brought that up. Like the way you broke down your fight, because another thing that I do is I run a media company. I help people consult for their own little brands. But as you're breaking down that fight, I'm like, why does this kid not have a fucking a show or where you're doing that? You got the dude who's doing the Muay Thai guy. He does Bink, but he's
Robin Black,
cool dude, nice guy, but no fighters. I mean, you should start experimenting with just your fight like that, because I'm gonna take the soundbite you just gave me and send it to my editing team, and I'm gonna try to pull up the footage of you actually doing that, and I'm gonna be like, dude, this kid on sheer memory broke it down bit by bit like that. As a fan and as somebody who loves the fight game, dude, man, that's something you should be thinking. You're really good at that. And to be able to dissect other fighters, I don't know. I don't think any other fighter in the game's doing that that's actually fighting.
Yeah, bro. Every time I watch a fight, like Bader versus Vadim Nemkov, and I know you're not supposed to, like, you're not supposed to move to their power hand. Like, yeah. But obviously, if you keep circling right the entire time, they're going to know which way you're circling, and it's just going to create a stalemate of circling. So you got to change the angle somewhere. But Vadim Nemkov, instead of constantly circling right, he was constantly circling to his left, right into Bader's power hand, and Bader wasn't taking advantage of it. He just kept jabbing out to the left and circling while he was jabbing, and his back hand kept becoming flush, or his back leg kept becoming flush with his front leg. And I mean, at that point, if you make contact with even like half your power on the right hand, where his back leg is behind his front leg, he's off balance. You're going to at least knock him down, if not knock him out. And how many times does he have to step to your left into your power hand before you're just like, you know what? It's finally clicking. He keeps moving this way. Instead of me throwing a right hand right where he is right now, and I know he's coming off this way, why don't I just throw an overhand right or a straight right out here where I think he's going to be? It's like leading a fucking receiver in football, man. Like, how many times, like, do you have to throw right here, and for him to step out this way to your power hand, for him to throw his jab, does he have to do it before you could finally land yours?
Yeah.
I mean, or land your power hand. I mean, if that was me, and Vadim Nemkov is a fucking beast. He's a beast. He's a great fighter. But if he was making that mistake against me, I would have made him pay for it. And he would have to adjust. And not saying I would have finished the fight off of that, because him being a high-level fighter, you probably would have adjusted to that as well. And I would have had to pick apart another mistake he was making. But just that mistake alone, it's like if he kept making that over and over and over again, and Ryan Bader made him pay for it once, now Vadim Nemkov has to switch up his game plan. Or if he keeps doing it, then Bader's just going to fucking land another overhand right and probably end the fight.
Yeah, man. See, yeah, I think I'm gonna play around with something. I'll send it to you when I have it finished, and let me know what you think. Off of the, not including the podcast, because I think that's a good way. It's something that you could do that wouldn't take a lot of your time to keep growing your brand, because you know it's about branding as well, and you're fucking good at it. Jesus, like that. Who knows what that could double down in? But thanks for doing this with me, man. I'm glad to finally meet you, to pick your brain, and also to see where your head's at, dude. Keep doing what you're doing, bro, man. The future's fucking huge for you.
Yeah, you too, bro. I appreciate you.
Thanks, big fella. I'll talk to you soon.
All right, see ya.
Later.